Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next podcast of Different Paths and Shared Values. I am Julie May. And as always, I'm with my cousin Wendy. And today we're talking about something that I think is going to resonate with um, everyone, whether you follow astrology or not, or even if you've never looked at an astrology chart in your life, it doesn't matter. But there is an asteroid called Chiron. And in Greek mythology, Chiron was a healer, one of the greatest healers of his time, but he carried a wound that never fully healed. And that paradox is what makes him interesting. Because in astrology, Chiron represents that place in us that is very tender, where our deepest wound and our greatest gift live right next to each other, because Chiron was wounded, but he was also a great healer and a great teacher. So last Friday, on the 19th of June, Chiron moved into the sign of Taurus. And it's going to be there in total about 7 to 8 years after, except for a brief move back into Aries in the fall. It'll come back into Taurus next spring. So this is kind of a preview period of what the rest, when it moves back next spring, what the rest of the years are going to look like. So Taurus is about worth. It's about values. It's about money. It's about resources. It's about our body. And it rules our throat, what we're saying. So this begs the question that so many of us carry, which is, am I enough? Is what I say worth hearing? So today, we're going to talk about what that means. We'll talk some personal stuff, but mostly what it means for everyone else out there in the whole world, because this affects everyone in the collective. So we're going to talk about the history that tells us a little about this moment in time and what's going on the other side of this wound. And as always, I'll bring in astrology, and Wendy's going to bring us back down to earth. So Chiron, as I said, is the wounded healer. It's the one who's suffering, the source of their wisdom. It's the suffering is the source of their wisdom. So in astrology, wherever Chiron sits in your natal chart marks the place where you feel most tender, most unworthy, most like you just can't ever get it right. And it's also, though, over time, where we develop our deepest capacity to help others. So there's a lot of that innately in this transit. So Chiron takes about 50 years to actually move through all of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Like the moon, it changes quickly. The sun, it changes pretty often. Mercury, it's pretty quick. Chiron's 50 years to go all the way around the zodiac. And so when you're like late 40s, early 50s, you have a Chiron return, which is a reckoning of our original return. So like I have already been through my Chiron return. And it's not a breakdown time, but it is a time where Chiron calls us inward. It's questioning whether you've done worrying or done working through that original wound in yourself. So that's just a bit about Chiron, but the image that I keep coming back to is the person who went through something hard, which actually qualifies them to help others through it. So I'm not talking about having a degree, having a title. It's when having dealt with your wound, having worked on healing your wound, actually gives you some credentials. It's when you look at the people you most trust to give you advice, to guide you, whether healers, teachers, leaders in the community, in your church. Um, it's saying, do you think that holds up? That you don't need all of that. You can just rely on your lived experience to help others. Is there something about having lived through a difficult time or dealing with our wounds within ourselves that you can't get any other way? So that's the question I put to you, Wendy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and there's so many wounds, right? That like everyone has wounds from their life, from
Yes.
experiences in their life. Nobody's immune to that, right? Personally, mine is, I think, being a people pleaser my whole life and an empath my whole life. Oh gosh, sorry. And I think that's true for so many people right now, is particularly seemingly people in our age range, because we're bumping up against that societally and, kind of everywhere around us. There's a lot of balancing and for me, balancing when to use my voice and when to be silent. But being silent now is not a sign of weakness, where before I would be silent because I was trying to keep the peace, or I was trying not to ruffle feathers, or I was feeling, too weak or emotional or whatever to use my voice. Now I know I don't really need to take on all of that I don't need to use my voice all the time. Sometimes it's better not to, actually, because it can cause more strife if I constantly am, speaking up and using my voice of power and, standing in my own power. So for me, learning that silence isn't weakness all the time was huge, and that's like a brand new thing, a most recent thing for me. Um, Definitely learning to connect with my real voice, being able to put that out in front of people without feeling like I'm embarrassed, or uh, like somebody's going to think, what people are going to think of me when they hear me talk like that. Oh my gosh, that was always such a huge driver in my communication before now. And now I'm starting to get to that point where I'm like, no, what they think and how they react to it is theirs. That's not mine. That's theirs to carry. And I don't need to pick that up or worry about picking that up. They can just carry that along, and I'll just be here standing in my own power and using my own voice for what I feel is important to, and what needs to be heard, what I feel like I'm here to say. Like, I do feel like I'm here and I have a message and it's important and the world needs to hear it. I just am learning how to step into that, I think. And I think that's true for so many people. So many people right now, with all of the stuff happening and all of the back and forth, and people are really judgmental, especially online. I'm currently trying to build a business online. That's a whole other world. Goodness, people are brave. They're so brave online, as opposed to, like, if they were standing in front of me, they probably wouldn't say half the things they say.
Mm.
And so that's a whole other level, sort of, where people might be feeling like they're using their power, but they're really not. They're really showing their own weakness in a lot of ways when they use their voice for the wrong reasons, or saying the negative message that they're trying to spew out there. That's not what it's about.
Good point. And when you mentioned balance and
Hmm.
the balance of speaking or not speaking, and the discernment between when to do both, that's a very Taurus thing, and Chiron and Taurus, because you are learning that you can speak up. You don't have to. And you've learned that through life. The studying that you've done. It's not like you have a degree in communication or psychology, I don't think, do you?
No, just a very
It's
hard earned one.
Yes, it's life experience and
Mhm,
growth and working on yourself, healing those chironic wounds.
mhm.
So yeah,
And the
that's
silence
very
thing, in using the silence thing as power, for me, it's more about not reacting. So I use my voice in power, I stand in my power, and I use my voice when I feel like that's the right thing to do. The silence comes more where if someone reacts to me in a way that isn't positive, I no longer feel like I need to defend myself. I no
yeah.
longer feel like I need to explain myself or why I think the way I think or why I'm feel. I don't need to do all of that. I need to stand in my own power and say, this is my truth. You don't have to agree with it, but this is my truth. And I'm going to stand here with it and strongly be who I am.
That's wonderful. That's a hard thing to learn too. So let's all right, let's talk a little more. As I mentioned, Chiron entered Taurus last week. It stays most of the time through about 2033, with this being that preview period, one retrograde where it goes back into Aries before it settles back into Taurus for the long haul. So I said Taurus is an earth sign. It's Venus ruled. It governs the body and beauty and self-worth and money and resources and pleasure and the voice, literally the throat. So when Chiron moves through Taurus in these next several years, it activates wounds around those themes in that territory. And it's not just our personal Chiron. This is happening for everyone around the world. It's a collective theme that is going to be going on in the world. So I feel like the question that Chiron in Taurus is asking us is where did we learn that our worth was conditional? Who told us that what we were worth? And was it true? The healing isn't necessarily about fixing anything. It's more about letting yourself stop feeling that you need to earn the right to to be yourself, to receive the things that are meant for you to receive, the right to exist. So, the themes we're talking about here, that worth, the body, resources, that fear of not having enough, they're not just astrology concepts. They're what we deal with as humans. They're just human. And I'm curious to see what you're seeing out there right now, whether it's the people around you, conversations you're having, or just where do you see that wound of worth showing up for you? And if you care to share, okay, if you don't, what does it actually look like in your everyday life? Um, okay, what do you think, Wendy?
You know, for me personally, it's showing up very much in like I said, I'm building a business online, and hustle culture has been a part of my world. I mean, I remember that my whole life. It just seems like what I've always heard is to be successful, you have to push through, and you gotta, you can't
Yes.
sleep get up at 3 a.m. if you have to. Do what you got to do to make it to be successful. So that hustle culture is always telling you that. And for me, I'm finally learning that there's not one way to do it that fits everyone. And it's more about listening to my own body, listening to my own mind, listening to what do I need to do personally to, yes, move my business forward, but also make sure that I'm not burning the candle at both ends and I'm not burning out, because that doesn't serve anyone. And not, that won't help, that won't get me anywhere. And so there's a lot of noise still online about the hustle culture, and you gotta, just go, 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 go. Particularly for people my age, I think maybe we get pushed out of that area of expertise in a lot sometimes, because we feel like, oh, if that's what it takes to make it, well, I don't want to, don't. I'm out. Like I don't have it in me to do that. I don't want to do that. So I'm just not gonna. But and I've bumped up against that many times over the past year or so, really trying to work on this online business thing. I bumped up against that so many times. And I'm just now finally realizing that, hey, no, it's okay. You know, I might not move as fast as some other, I might not get there as quickly if I do it differently, but I might also get there even faster if I just align myself with my own energy, what my body is telling me, what my mind is telling me, what's happening around me in my own life, in other people's world, whatever. I think that's really big that a lot of people are hitting or feeling. And I think a lot of people are turning away from a lot more people are turning away from that because of the financial situation, the economic situation we're currently in. People are feeling the pinch. People are feeling, the higher cost of living and all of that, and they're going to their jobs and they're working those 9 to 5 jobs and they're still not getting ahead for so many people. So I think they're finally going, is this really all there is? Like, is this what I'm meant to do my whole life? Am I really meant to go and bust my butt for however many years just to have those few at the end where I can enjoy? And I think more people are saying, no, I don't think that's what I'm supposed to be here for. And I think that's what life is all about. And it's changing the job, it's changing the work industry, I think, in a very impactful way. Even the young people are I think even more of the young people are actually embracing that and pushing for, let's not do that. Let's not teach everybody that you got to work, you know, put everything into work and all, and that's what you got to focus on for the first however many years of your life, and then you can enjoy your life after that. There's so many young people saying, no, I'm not buying into that one. I've watched my parents and my grandparents do that. I see how it worked out for them, you know. I'm not buying into
Right,
that one. I'm not doing that. So
right.
it's adjusting the world's. I think it's going to adjust the economics. I think it's going to adjust the work environment. I think it's going to make a lot of changes, actually, a lot of shifts in people's thinking and perspectives.
Good points. And you mentioned very Taurian or Chiron and Taurus themes. You said what's right for your body, very
Mhm.
Taurus, and that scarcity thing, the money
Yeah,
issues, the not having enough to even maybe for your day-to-day needs.
right.
Those are definitely things that are Chiron and Taurus themes that are coming up for us. So,
And when you
uh,
feel that weight, that's a weight when you don't
yes.
have enough money to keep up with your basic bills. It changes the way you move through the world. It changes the way you see the world. It changes the way you see yourself and the people around you and your time and your energy and all of that stuff. And it can really bog people down. I know it does me. It bogs me down. It drains my energy. It makes me feel unworthy. It makes me feel like I'm not good enough to, whatever. And so yeah, that's a huge one to work through and to understand that that's not the message here. That's not, you are worthy. You are good enough. Um, you just it's a very heavy feeling, and there's so many people living that truth right now. I think that that's where a lot of the heaviness comes from, because we were talking before about being empaths, and I think the days where I'm really just, I have those days where I just feel so heavy, and everything is so hard, and I just can't get myself to motivate and to do the things I need to do. I think that energy is coming from all over the place because there's so much of that in the world right now. So and that energy is like always available to us. We're always tapped into that grid. So if that's a lot of what people are feeling, then of course that's going to drag you down, and you have no real choice in the matter but to feel that, and then you got to figure out how to balance it and how to let it some of it go so that you can keep moving forward. But like I said, it's again listening to my body. Sometimes I just got to say, well, today's just that day. I'm not going to be productive today.
But maybe you will be productive in a different way,
Yeah.
not in um, a busy doing way, but in a mind and body way. So that's
Oh,
another
that's
way
such a good point. Oh
to
gosh, that's such a good
reframe it.
point.
It's if it's what your body needs, and we probably need to like talk about being able to set energetic boundaries sometime. But
Mhm.
we're going to stick to this topic now. Um, let's go back to so November. Let's talk about history now because there's always a historical context when it comes to astrology transits where planets, asteroids, etc., are moving through. So November 1st of 1977 is when this asteroid named Chiron was discovered by Charles Cowell from images that were taken in October at the Palomar Observatory. So, of course, it's always been out there, but at that point in time, you could see it. We had the telescopes that were powerful enough to see it. So, after they learned what the orbit was and knowing the orbit, you can calculate where it has been in the past based on its orbit. So, the last time that Chiron moved through Taurus, like it is now, was roughly 1976 to 1983. Some of you may be too young to remember that. I remember that time. And when you look back at what was happening in the world during that window, the themes are striking. So,
Mhm.
all right, chironic themes. What was happening then? What's happening now? Then, value wars. So that's late 70s, early 80s. Jerry Falwell's moral majority, the religious right, a direct organized response to cultural shift of the 70s and the 60s, which was much more loose, pushing back hard on feminism, on gay rights, on changing family structures. The ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment that they'd been working on for so long, they still failed to ratify it in 82 after a decade-long battle on it. Phyllis Schlafly's Stop the ERA campaign was one of the first major organized conservative grassroots movements. The body is the battleground. The ongoing um, contesting of Roe v. Wade, the anti-abortion movement was rapidly organizing and gaining political power back then in the late 70s, early 80s. And the AIDS crisis, 1981, it became immediately politicized. Whose body deserves care and treatment? And public sympathy was a deeply contested question. I mean, you could be really ostracized for having that empathy for a person. The values, it's like whose values get to be in charge, whose are right. Prayer and public school debates intensified. The Supreme Court had already banned state-sponsored prayer in 1962, but the battles continued. Oh my, does this all sound so familiar? Sex education in schools became a flashpoint. What children were taught about their bodies and sexuality fiercely argued territory. So you can see this through line across is very Chiron in Taurus. Whose body matters? Whose values count? Who gets to define worth? Who gets to tell me what is right and wrong for me and my body? And culturally, there was a reckoning beginning around materialism. Like,
Mm.
what does enough actually mean? So obviously, we're not walking back into the same situation. Times have changed, people have changed, situations have changed, but the themes, those Chiron and Taurus themes, there's a thread running through it. Chiron has a long memory, and themes, the returning themes are echoing that era. So we were looking at economic recession, that AIDS crisis, the cultural reckoning about the body, who deserves care. And when you look at what's happening around the world right now, what we're wrestling with, all of those things, resources, our body's worth, um, I don't even have to ask you, do you see echoes of that? I know you do, but tell me specifically what feels so familiar to you.
Oh gosh, all of it. But of course, back then, I wasn't really paying attention to that stuff. That was pre-internet. I was 70s, 80s. I was a teen. I was a kid. I was growing up. I graduated high school in 85. So, I was finding myself. I was like living my life. We didn't have the internet. We didn't know what was going on in the whole wide world all the time because, we didn't
Right.
watch the news because we were kids. We didn't care what was on the news. We were more concerned about hanging out with our friends and doing stuff that we wanted to do. So I wasn't really in tune to all of that back then, but looking at it now and seeing what's happening now is like, oh my God, it's so cyclical. It's just so everything comes back around, comes back around, comes back around, and why it's exhausting sometimes. Um, and the big push for me right now in particular is about other people feeling like they're entitled to tell anyone else how to live their lives or what they can and can't do with their own bodies and what decisions are theirs and not theirs. I mean, who decided that anybody had the right to tell someone else that you can't live your life the way you're choosing to live it? um it's such a hot button topic right now, especially LGBTQ. And as a mother to a transgender daughter, that's a very that's a subject of real concern for me and for her, for my family. So it's a very hot button topic for me, and I get angry and um, frustrated and all of those things. And I'm not even the one living. I'm not even the one walking that path. She is. I'm not the one having. I do have to deal with some of the hatefulness because I've been so open about my support for that. Um, and
For you.
it's just amazing how people have just gotten very entitled. Well, I don't know. Were they that entitled back then? I don't remember them being that entitled back then, but I guess they probably were because they did
Oh, they
like,
weren't. The
yeah,
moral majority thought they
uh-huh,
could tell us all what to believe, what to think. Hmm.
right. And there was probably, I'm sure, a big clash with the religious and the not religious, non-religious, just like what's happening right now too. There seems to be a mass move away from organized religion at the moment. Um, but then there's still those who are fiercely fighting for organized religion and trying to keep it alive and fighting, pushing back. But I feel like it's kind of moving away from that. Um, and at the very least, I think maybe organized religion is going to have to have a massive upgrade. They're gonna have to change some things if they want to survive this. I feel like because there's a massive change happening in that arena as well. So many of those topics though that were going on back then are right back here again, aren't they? Here we are
They
fighting the
are.
same battles.
They are. That's the nature of it, right? So it's what we're being asked to look at in these next
Mhm.
several years. How are we going to help that? I mean, people like you and I who have um, and I was raised in a very religious household,
Mhm.
and I have a very strong belief system, but it's not the one I grew up with. I'm very spiritual, but it's not all of the things I was taught as a child. But what I've found after dealing with this my whole life and finally healing that and saying, I think I know what's right for me, and I'm following my spirit, my Holy Spirit that's showing me a different way. And yeah, it's not yours to tell me good or bad. So the wound of Taurus has a few of these recognizable voices, the things that we say to ourselves that we're being asked to consider, to work through, to change, to maybe just absorb or heal. So one of them is like, well, I'm only valuable for what I produce, for what I earn, for what I make, for that hard work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's asking us to say, stop saying, I don't deserve rest or ease or pleasure. Or maybe you're saying to yourself, having or my needs is a burden to other people. So, I don't want them to worry about me, or no matter what I achieve, I'm never quite enough. These are very Chiron and Taurus themes, and they're not character flaws. They are just responses to stories we were told, stories we told ourselves, how we thought maybe the wall we put up for us to survive an environment that was hard for us, or that taught us those things that, in order to be worthy, like you mentioned earlier, that you needed to go and you needed to earn and you needed to work hard and all of those things. So a lot of those stories are still running around decades later
Mm.
in lives that really don't require it. So, you know, mentioning some of the things that we say to ourselves, um, what do you hear most from people around you? Um, or what are you seeing in the culture? Or just what's the one of the ones that you feel is the most, the collective is really carrying most right now?
Mm-hmm. Um, you know, I had an epiphany the other day, um, about, how everyone's so at each other's throats and so divided and all of that. But I think that one of the big key things to, if we could all just grasp this, it would calm things down a lot, is if we could understand that it's not the thought, and it's not the belief, and it's not the event, and it's not any of your experiences that actually is negative or positive. It's the meaning we assign to those that's
Yes.
negative or positive. So if we could understand that and really become aware of how we're putting that meaning on, where are we pulling that from? Like, why am I so triggered by that? And why does that make me feel the way it makes me feel? It's not them. They don't have that power. Nobody else has the power to make me feel anything. I do that. I choose that. And so I think just people not understanding that that they're assigning so much meaning to so many things, and it's not even about that. Like, they need to just back up for a minute and go, wait a minute. Why am I why am I so triggered by this? How is this affecting my daily life? If that person wants to live their life like that, why does that bother me? It shouldn't. It's not affecting you. They're living their life over there, and they're not trying to force anything on you. But it's that meaning that we assign to it.
Yes, definitely. So these are the things that Chiron is like asking us to face over these next 7, 8 years, to recognize that we don't need to earn our self-worth. We are worthy, and our relationship with our body, um, we just need to ground it, rather than try to be at war with ourselves. And this is something that I still struggle with, that capacity to receive, not just give.
That's a huge
Um,
one.
yes. And that we do have a voice, and that voice matters so much. Taurus rules the throat. Um, it it matters.
Mhm.
However, we obtained our knowledge, but with Chiron, and lived experience, that we don't have to put on a performance. We can be our authentic self, share our message, and the people that are meant to hear it will hear it. And
Mm.
we don't have to manage it. We just have to be more real and let other people be real. So I read this book. I don't have it around me yet, but it's by Melanie Reinhardt, who wrote a book on Chiron, and it puts it this way: what we heal in ourselves, we can offer to others. That's Chiron, the wounded healer who became the healer and the teacher. That wound that we've had when we heal within ourselves becomes our gift to others. So that is the promise of this transit. If we embrace it and we do the work to release and to heal, um, of course, it's not slow work, it's not easy work. Anything,
Right.
you have to really dig down into yourself and see what it is that you need to work on. It's asking a lot, but what's on the other side for us is that self-possession, that many of us only like glimpse, but we can actually grasp it and share it with others. So for me personally, I am sharing through lived experience. Do I have a degree that supports astrology? No. I've done the studies, I've done the work. I have a small astrology business. Is it all, am I operating the way I want it to be? Are there things personally holding me back? Sure. Those are things, though, that during this transit I can work on. I'm pointing myself in the right direction. I need to, of course, deal with those practical issues that surround it. But what changed is when we realized, yes, this is what I was called to do. I don't have to justify it. This is my calling. This is how I help people. This is how I serve people. So when we get to that point, still may not be perfect because we heal in little steps. It's not like an overnight, oh my gosh, everything's perfect and I'm better. But when we stop trying to justify or um, keep living the things that aren't right for us, we and our lived experience allow us to be those people that help others. And that's what this is about. Right now, there's a lot of people that just are feeling so much around all of these themes, and it's our calling to share our message so that can we can help others. So, all right, that's how it's changing and working for me. It's all around my spiritual calling and how I help and I serve. So, Wendy, what is it wrapped around most for you?
I think very similarly, like I am working on trying to use my step into my real truth, my real voice, speak from that more often than not, instead of always, like you said, trying to put on, as a people pleaser, as an empath, as a whatever, caregiver, all of those things I've been my whole life that a lot of us have been. You change your voice based on what you're surround what who you're around, what your surroundings are, what situation you're in. I was always a chameleon. I could fit in anywhere and I could change up, like
Yes.
woo woo. And so now it's more about, okay, none of that's my baggage. That's not my suitcase. I'm not picking that up anymore. I'm gonna lay that suitcase over there and let that person grab it because that's not mine. That's not coming with me on this journey that I'm on. And what my life looks like today is is from all of my past choices is what has created my life today. And so the choices I'm making today are the ones that are going to create my life in the future. So it's a lot like that, like the manifestation gap, where, it's not all happening. It doesn't happen in real time. It doesn't happen when you make a choice. It just doesn't automatically change just because you made that choice right in that moment. It will change though if you make a choice and you stick to that choice. That is going to change. It has to change. Your reality has to change when you make different decisions. It has no choice but to do that because you're the one driving, steering the boat. You are your
Yes.
own captain. So make the choices you want to make today about for what you want your life to look like tomorrow and the next day. And understand that that's how it works. So be patient and let it come to you after you've made those choices. Let it come to you, for goodness sake. Give it a minute. Be a little more
Yes.
patient.
That's definitely a Taurus trait.
Oh,
Definitely a Taurus trait and such good advice. So, whatever path brought you to this conversation, whether you came for astrology, for the lived experience, or just a feeling that something is shifting, hopefully we can agree on this, that the question of worth is one of the most human questions there is. And all of us around the world are in a chapter that's asking us to answer that question differently than we have before. And you may think your one little Taurus voice doesn't matter, but it does, because there are a lot of people like Wendy and I who may be small, but all of that energy that we're putting out for better things for all of us helps. And everyone in that army
mhm,
are make a big impact. It's kind of
mhm.
like say, well, I don't care if I vote because one vote doesn't matter. No, but a lot of votes, a lot of one votes do
Right.
matter. A
Mhm.
lot of one person making steps to make this world a more loving and embracing world make a difference. So,
Definitely a cumulative thing, a
yes,
cumulative energy to tap
yes,
into. So yeah, one person does make a difference because that one person linked with all the other ones is where it happens. It's exactly where it
yes.
happens.
Absolutely. So, Chiron and Taurus isn't here to fix us. It's just here to show us what we've been carrying and ask us to either gently or not so gently, depending on who you are, where you are in life, whether we're ready to put down some things that just don't support us, that aren't helpful for us. And so that's why Wendy and I are here on different paths and shared values. So we can offer different perspectives in this one beautiful conversation, and hopefully something, even if it's just one little tidbit, resonates with you wherever you are. Feel free. We'll post this video, many places. Wendy has her sites. I have my sites. You can look on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and your favorite podcast venue. And we'd love to hear from you if you want to post anything about what you think about these. Um, but we're also offering some things for you, some free things. Wendy, here I'm going to tell you about mine, and I'll let you tell you about yours. So um, I'll be posting this everywhere, but I have, if you want to kind of sort through some of this, but you're not sure where to start, I have a digital workbook that's free. It's for a beginner. You don't have to know all this astrology, that you can kind of work through some things on your own. If you're an astrology student, more advanced, I do have a workbook for $19, and I'm also offering personal Chiron readings through July for $49. Wendy.
Awesome. I have my book on Amazon, Shift Your Perspective, Change the World. Um, that's available. And then I have some digital products. I have one on my site at the moment, but I'm working on more. The one that I'm making available for free is called it's called the STFU protocol, which gloriously fits even if you go with the traditional meaning of those letters. But for me, STFU stands for Stop the Freak Out Unfolding. And it's just
Yeah, I
like a
love that.
90-second thing to where you feel yourself getting overwhelmed. It just walks you through a process to go, okay, wait, take a breath here. Let's step back and you know regroup for a minute. And it's just a quick little 90-second thing as a free PDF, and it just walks you through that 90-second reset, basically.
Beautiful. And you said that's on your website. So that's Be Change You Seek.
BeChangeYouSeek.com. Yeah. I should put that on.
Spell that
Uh,
out. We'll put that, I'll put that on there too. Be Change You Seek.
yeah, because it's the letter B and then the word change and then the letter U and the word seek.com.
Right.
So I didn't spell out the whole entire thing. I probably should have because it would have been easier to find, but
That's okay. We'll add some links on
yeah.
because I'm posting it. So
Mhm.
thank you all. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all for being here. And I know we missed last month. A lot of things happened, but I do believe we'll have a July episode. So see you next month.
Yay.